You got to take a position now, not after the institutions have started buying. You want to treat it as the 12th sector of the S&P because it will be in 10 years. I mean, this productivity is not going away. I mean, it's here to stay. Why don't you own this before it gets indexed? That's number one. Number two, I find the use case for payment systems like a USDC very, very compelling, very, very interesting. And I certainly want, and I do use it. I've been talking with our employees in our operating company. Next year, would they be interested in taking USDC in salary? And they are. And we just have to get it's much easier. I mean, it doesn't matter which country they're in, they're happy to hold the US backed dollar. And it's much easier for us on payroll. We just need to get our compliance officer on board and our auditor. And they're saying we won't do that till we get some policy on stablecoins. So it's all pent up demand underneath policy when it comes. You gotta take a position now, not after the institutions have started buying. Yesterday, there was another conference in Washington, D.C. where policymakers met the private sector, heavily, attended by institutional clients, very, very large institutions. You saw Fidelity and BlackRock just last week put $200 million each into Circle. I mean, that's unheard of, unheard of. I mean, they would have never done that unless they thought policy was coming. Fidelity's announced 401ks, which will allow, certain cryptos in there. So I think it's really early, as you say, but for me, it's a long-term position because I don't think of Bitcoin as a coin. It's software. Solana software, Ethereum software, they're all software projects, and software is a productivity tool. And I think at the end, you want to treat it as the 12th sector of the S&P because it will be in 10 years. I mean, this productivity is not going away. I mean, it's here to stay. So it's, there's volatility. Yeah, there's rogue operators. Yeah, there's scamming and shamming and all this other crap. And there's very speculative tokens and all that. But that doesn't matter. The long-term productivity enhancements, very, very, very compelling. In our operating company, we're about 30% in real estate. That's one of our asset classes. So we buy and sell real estate and in different geographies. So if you want to buy something in Switzerland, you got to be in Swiss francs. So you have to take your US dollars, you have to ACH it to a Swiss bank. It takes 3 days. You have to go through a very long protocol because we're talking about millions of dollars. And know your client, you have to get approval institutionally to move it. Very expensive, very slow. But in this particular case, they lost it. They lost millions of dollars for 48 hours. And I thought to myself, this is really crappy. This is a really bad system. Now, if I could have just simply said to the vendor, will you accept USDC or any stablecoin? I don't care what it is. I could have sent it to them in 2 seconds with full transparency, full accountability, full audit trail in perpetuity. I mean, that's so compelling that I know with certainty it's going to happen, which is why there's, $54 billion in USDC right now. And and I think the largest account size is only 60 million. So that's nothing in terms of what it could be. And so these use cases for making financial transactions more compelling are very powerful. They're faster, they're cheaper, they're transparent, and they're 100% compliant because my audit department could go look at it and the auditor could look at it and the vendor that's selling can see it. And it's essentially a smart contract. So for me, there's no question it's coming. So I might as well own a piece of Circle, and I do. And it's the same investment thesis for WonderFi. WonderFi is just infrastructure, and it's compliant infrastructure. And I think it's going to be very compelling for Canadian banks one day that want to do spot pricing for whatever they decide to allow their clients to buy, because I think it'll be a limited, maybe 3 or 4 tokens in the beginning. But I think it's going to be very interesting. The real potential is making it an asset that sovereign wealth can buy and pensions can buy. That's the opportunity. That's so huge. And it's I don't know when it's going to happen, but it may not be too far off, particularly for some basic large liquid coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe, USDC, Solana, Polygon. Those are all of interest to large institutional accounts. And you can buy individual tokens, but you want to have some exposure to where you're agnostic to the price of cryptocurrencies, and that's an exchange. And so if you want a compliant exchange, that's obviously WonderFi. It's the largest in Canada, which is where the regulator in all of the geographies around the world is the most advanced. It's the only country that started with Bitcoin spot pricing ETFs. Same with Ethereum, first order for dealer brokers. So, you know, WonderFi, that's my investment thesis, that it's 2 years ahead of everybody else, maybe 3. We'll have to wait and see, but it's a great place to get infrastructure exposure and on a compliant basis, so that you're not offside with regulators. There's 18 different sovereign funds just in UAE. The largest is 900 billion, the smallest is 100 billion. That's well over $1 trillion. And just, they might allocate 50 basis points, they may allocate 1%. You're talking about billions of dollars of demand. And when they index, they don't necessarily care about price. What they care about is liquidity, so that they're able to go in and out. So if they buy it 1% weighting and it goes to 2%, they have to be able to sell it down to 1%. But if it drops to 0.5%, they'll buy it back up to 1%, which just means it's a perpetual bid in perpetuity. That's why there's so much volatility in Bitcoin, because nobody owns it. I mean, relatively speaking, you know, it's irrelevant. 800 billion is nothing in the context of sovereign wealth. So I'm very optimistic that when this comes, there'll be a lot of demand, and that's when you'll start to talk about Bitcoin at much higher prices.